Welcome to this very important and timely workshop hosted by the Office of the Premier in collaboration with the Foreign and Commonwealth Office. I am Arlene Penn, Director of Communications with the Government of the Virgin Islands, and this workshop, titled Communications in a Networked World, is expected to provide us as communicators with insight into principles of social media communications. It is indeed an avenue which will offer us practical tools and techniques for digital communications in the form of theory, led sessions, and group exercises. So for the next 2 days, as communicators, we will learn together. Today we have representation from Pitcairn Islands. Can we have that person stand? Pitcairn, and you can remain standing. Turks and Caicos Islands, Cayman Islands, Gibraltar, Montserrat, and the Virgin Islands. Can we all stand, please? From the Virgin Islands. Your Excellency the Governor and Honorable Premier, I present to you the participants for the Overseas Territories Workshop. You can sit. And at this time, I now invite His Excellency the Governor to bring you remarks.
A very warm welcome here to Tortola, to the Virgin Islands, and I hope you're going to find the next couple of days worth the investment of your time and coming here. I think the genesis of this workshop goes back to the period of in the summer of this year, in the run-up to the G8 summit, when we in the Overseas Territories began to realize that we were in a communications struggle. There were things happening to us in the territories, particularly in respect of offshore finance, which we felt uncomfortable with. And what was happening was that there were things going on in the communications field which we didn't fully understand. And the space that was out there was being filled by others. The space was being filled by other governments. The space was being filled by other organizations from the public and private sector. And the words that we wanted to speak as Overseas Territories, particularly in the financial service sector, were being overwhelmed by the voice of the non-governmental organizations in particular. I think the territories collectively recognized, and the Foreign Office recognized at the same time, that there was something we needed to do to fight back, to get our voice heard when these issues of major concern to our territories were being discussed by the international media. And the idea emerged of improving the way in which we communicate. Not just communicate in traditional means, which is one-way communication, but engage in social media communication, which is two-way communication, because that's what the rest of the persons engaged in that debate were doing. They were blotting out some of the messages that we were trying to deliver, and they were able to secure the ear of persons who were making decisions, and that felt rather uncomfortable for us. So the decision was made that we should explore a way to learn from each other's lessons, to learn from each other's mistakes. And the Foreign Office decided would like to try and help the territories to understand how better to communicate in this new world, this new network world. And a suggestion was made that there should be some sort of presentation made to leaders when they were meeting in Gibraltar in September. The Premier and his colleagues were there under the chairmanship of the Chief Minister of Gibraltar, Mr. Picardo, and I understand that they had a very good session on communications and believed that it was sufficiently important to invite representatives of all the overseas territories together, the experts, the professionals in communication, to come together and understand how to operate more effectively in this network world. And that's what today's workshop and tomorrow's workshop is about. I'm particularly pleased that the choice was made to bring you all to the BVI, not least because it meant that I could be here and listen to some of the lessons that are being shared here. I'm interested in communications. I've been blogging for a few years now, and I've just recently started tweeting. And that in itself has been quite an experience, just seeing how those media work, because it's very different from the way in which I grew up as a public servant, when occasionally we might hold a press conference or send out a press release. Those things no longer have the impact they did in the past. We have to find different ways of reaching out to the people we want to talk to. We have to identify the people we want to talk to and how they communicate, and we have to try and work on their wavelength rather than something with which we are traditionally more comfortable. So I hope you'll all learn from, not just from those who have come out from London, to talk to you about the way in which the UK government, and the Foreign Office in particular, has been developing its own communications tools, but also learn from each other, because each of us will have a relevant experience to share with our colleagues and partners. And I hope one of the benefits of the session over the next 2 days will be that you go away feeling you have a friend, not just next door in your own offices in Cayman or in Turks and Caicos, perhaps across the world in Pitcairn or in Montserrat. And I think we can all benefit from that. I think one of the things I see constantly when I come together with my colleagues from other overseas territories is that we do all have broadly similar problems, similar challenges, and we sometimes think we're just by ourselves facing those challenges, but actually there's a friend in another territory who's facing exactly the same challenge, and we can learn from that friend and share our own experience with that friend, and I think that's mutually beneficial. So very much indeed. Enjoy the next 2 days. Thank you.
I'm glad to welcome all of you here to the British Virgin Islands. Those who have come from other countries, Pitcairn, Montserrat, etc. I know that some of you had a little bit of a difficult time getting from Antigua to the BVI, and I'd like to apologize for that. And hopefully by the time you come next time, we'll have some better flight arrangements emanating from the BVI, so we won't have that kind of difficulty. We're working hard on that. So thank you for your patience. The governor was quite right when he said that the idea of this workshop emanated from the public relations issue, particularly that we had, BVI and the other OTs had, in the early part of the year in June, May, June. And indeed, during that time, we, the BVI certainly, hired, we thought, of the best public relations team, experts in the United Kingdom, to assist us with the communication strategies. And so that's what we did, and we continued to work. Myself traveled to London and met with many various groups, organizations, guided by our communications expert, to help to try to negate some of the messages out there about you speaking badly about the BVI and the other overseas territories. I think that we succeeded largely because those voices have died down, but that does not mean that other challenges will not come. And other challenges are coming all the time, every day as a matter of fact. But I want to speak about the communication strategy from a broader perspective. What we saw then also applies to what happens at home, whether it's in the BVI or Montserrat or wherever. A few years ago, what seems to be a few short years ago, when I was in public service, it seemed to me that the people of the BVI believed that the government was doing what was best in their opinion, and the people's opinion for the country, and supported generally what the government was doing. Nowadays, something has changed. In those days, there were fewer newspapers, for example. There were no online media, and the government did have a public relations team, what do you call it again, government information system, which basically said to the people what the government was doing. But today, as I say, things have changed, and the perception that government is doing what is best for the country is not always there, and that is a problem. Because of that perception, and because the way we have handled that perception, I've seen several major things that government could have done got sort of, got on the wrong path, and we're not able to accomplish what we wanted to accomplish. Well, in truth and in fact, these things were important for the advancement of the country, because if you don't have the people of the country with you, then you have a difficulty carrying out work for them. And that was the issue we faced. And so when the governor proposed this workshop, that the FCA was going to have this workshop, I was very happy because it wasn't just about financial services, it was about what happens here on the ground. Because what happens on the ground nowadays goes all over the world. And whatever we say or what we do here, that perception is created to the rest of the world, and they interpret what's happening here in their own way, and that has some effect of how we relate to the rest of the world. And so I think it's a message that we as a government needs to understand, that we need to communicate better. And nowadays, here in the BVI, we have several, in fact the newspapers are gradually disappearing, the written newspapers. How many are there now? There are 2 now, still left. But the number of online papers are increasing. And also the social media, the use of social media is also increasing exponentially. I myself am not on the Twitters yet. Facebook I am on Twitter. I have a Twitter account, but I haven't actually determined how to go about using it as yet, but I will, maybe after this workshop. So it is important then for each country, all of us, to be able to develop a communication strategy that takes into account what the government wants to do for the people of the country, how the government wants to relate to the outside world, and how the people of the country perceives government, and also take into account all the other individuals, persons, groups who are also trying to influence the thought of the people in the country. And that is very, very important. And so because of that, it is important that each country have a better communication strategy than we have at the moment. And I think this applies to everybody, all of us here in this room. And certainly after this workshop this week, I expect to have something that's a whole lot better than we have right now. Right, darling? Thank you.